What makes you an elite athlete?
In my mid 30s, I'm starting to focus on health and wellness and really identifying the areas where I can improve my health and fitness. You had all this detox cool stuff, which is part of what I want to do pre-pregnancy is get detoxed as much as possible.
Hey, for those that's all Greek, it's just a lot of hard stuff. And then when you came in, I think I said something about peptides, and you're like, "You can do peptides?" And I was like, "Yes."
Gosh, there's too many because one of them is it's kind of controversial.
Welcome back to Reboot You. Today's podcast, we had Vilma Gray, who's a top athlete. She's a business owner. We met several years ago at an actual fitness competition, and she's wanting to become a mom. So that's her next goal. So in this podcast, you guys are going to hear how she realized alternative medicine through Reboot is the way to go for helping her to get pregnant as an athlete. There's a little bit of a struggle in that industry, which you'll hear about also, where getting pregnant at that top level athlete, being a business owner can be difficult. We went into birth control, how she stopped it and felt phenomenal afterwards. It's a big key point. And then you'll just hear some different diet fads that we've worked on, peptides, a little bit of talk about peptides, how they work. And I'm just really excited for you guys to hear about if you are in any way an athlete, a business owner, and a family person. This is a great episode for you guys to hear more about. All right, welcome back to Reboot You. Today's podcast, we're going to be focusing on your health, your business, your family, and how the hell you deal with it all. Thank you, Vilma, for being here. And my first question right away is, what makes you an elite athlete, peak performer athlete? What makes that?
Well, that's a great question, Fabian. I don't really know what defines that, but I will say from a competitive standpoint, I've been CrossFitting for almost 14 years. The last 3 years, I've been part of a competitive league called the United Grid League. So those are the burpee backflip kind of folks, the double touch, triple touch, touch and going heavy weights kind of stuff. So 2024, we were national champions. And so that I would probably say is like the pinnacle of my athletic career is really once I started playing grid, which was by accident. And then really right now in my mid 30s, I'm starting to focus on health and wellness and really identifying the areas where I can improve my health and fitness that are outside of just being at the top of my sport.
What is a burpee backflip?
It's literally what it sounds like. So you do a burpee and you backflip. Now, I'm not the one responsible for that.
Okay.
I usually am the person doing double touches or triple touches. So that's a toes to bar and a chest to bar, or a toes to bar, chest to bar, bar muscle up. Handstand push-ups with a 10-inch deficit, kettlebell snatches at 53 pounds. So I'm more of a utility player, but you'll see a lot of the gymnasts really doing the burpee backflips. I tried to learn, that was not going to happen.
Hey, for those that's all Greek, it's just a lot of hard stuff.
Yes, a lot of hard stuff.
Physical.
It's great if if you're really good at gymnastics, you only have to do gymnastics. If you're good at a little bit of everything, you could do a little bit of everything. Then you have your strength specialists who are really good at the weightlifting. So it takes the part of a team sport and makes it so that you don't have to be good at everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that was, I remember when grid, I think it was coming out when CrossFit was in its peak, right? Or
Yeah, so it used to be a national league, and then it's broke apart. Florida created their own grid league, and then back in 2024 is when they created the national league from that one.
yeah, okay. Because I remember when I was doing CrossFit like locally for fun in competitions, I was like, how the hell do they expect me to do like max deadlifts and get anywhere on the board? But then we would have muscle ups and like, yeah, this is my jam.
Yeah.
So when I saw that sport, I thought that was really cool. Like I could actually have a specialty
Yeah.
area to work.
Yeah. And that's really the focus, is like being a specialist in your domain.
Yeah.
And so what is really cool, you could check it out on YouTube, but you can see like the very best of the best really dialing in their technique and doing things like forward rolls, back uprights to support. I mean, crazy stuff that you would never see in the sport of CrossFit, but because they've created a space, it allows them to showcase their ability.
Oh, that's cool. So I remember, not when we first met, but kind of when we first got introduced to each other as the business sense of things we do at Reboot for athletes. And I think it was reindeer rumble, maybe. We had the exercise with oxygen, which is where you're on a rower, you're breathing 95% oxygen. And the reason I brought it out there is because it was a cool tool because you guys are performing right there. So you've got 3 to 4 workouts and about an hour to an hour and a half in between them. So the idea would be is you do 15 minutes exercise with oxygen, and that sets up your day where your recoveries are supposed to be quicker, so you're not like zombied out after a crazy WOD. And then you can go right into your next workout and feel more refreshed. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. It's actually funny. I have a funny story with that one. So I had signed up for that competition, and it was, I think, a friend's birthday or something the night before. And I was like, listen, and this was in my younger years. I said, I'll come out, I'll have dinner, and I'll have one drink, and I'm going home. I have to compete tomorrow. We stayed out till 2 a.m. And so coming and doing the exercise with oxygen therapy was definitely very welcome because that was, I think, the year that I wore the UGG boots and did the overhead squat.
With UGG boots?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a picture somewhere on the internet. But it was a rough time, and definitely doing the EWAT for me was important. And it's so funny because you and I have talked about this, but where I was when I met you versus where I am today in terms of like, what I consume, alcohol, going out, lifestyle is so different. So back then, I think that was right before I started Grid.
Okay.
And so once I started Grid, I really started to recognize the importance of recovery. And so that's when I started really utilizing a lot of the services that Reboot has to offer.
Yeah, so I don't know how long after that, but wasn't too long after that we decided let's try to create a partnership. So Reboot, we said we'll sponsor you as an athlete.
Mhm.
You'll talk about us in your clinic too, because you've got your own clinic where you're doing CrossFit and then functional fitness. And I've seen you kind of evolve that
Yes.
into more of like when I started, I realized that as a personal trainer, I was limited to so many things I could do, right? So I decided I need to get nutrition going too. And then we got affiliated, did CrossFit, and I'm like, man, there's only so many clients that can really do CrossFit and at a level where, because people that couldn't do CrossFit in my gym, they saw these girls doing like overhead squats and they wanted to do it, even though they can't. They're like, I'll just do it anyways. And they'd end up kind of not getting hurt, but maybe pushing a little harder than they should, the competitive side. So it's been cool to see you transform also, where you're starting to integrate a lot more into the business
Right.
for the whole athlete.
I think that that's a area where, as a gym owner and as an affiliate owner, especially in the space of CrossFit, it's a very neglected area in the space. We always focus on the 1 hour, getting them into an overhead squat, or can you squat snatch this or do a pull up? And we really forget about the conversations that are really important, which is like, are you prioritizing your recovery? Right? Are you mobilizing? Are you getting enough sleep at night? Are you making sure your labs are where they need to be? And I think CrossFit as an entity has started to kind of shift into that space where we see a lot more people talking about the importance of recovery, not just from workout to workout, like the EWAT stuff, but even some of the conversations you and I had about like lab work and understanding like genes and gene mutations and how that affects your ability to train or recover. I think moving forward, you'll see a lot of the CrossFit space starting to play around with more peptides and things like that. So it's been cool, basically since I met you, watching that evolution go from just like competition, right, which is initially when we first met,
Yep.
to recovery for competition, which is when I was doing grading and competing at a high level. And then now, I'm in a different transitionary phase where I'm really trying to optimize my health, and it's still compete here and there. But prioritizing my health and wellness. I could tell you that just because you're at the pinnacle of your fitness, that doesn't mean that you are at the pinnacle of health. And so in this new journey I'm in, I'm really focusing on my lab work, my stress levels, my recovery levels, and using Reboot and their services in a way that allows me to maximize that as I get into my mid-30s and 40s and beyond.
So tell me, you were coming twice a week religiously.
Yes, I was very good about it.
For a while there, you were very religious, which was awesome. How do you feel like it helped you? What did you notice?
So I was a big fan of the hyperbaric chamber at the time. So the way that my sport works is it's a lot of high intensity. It's not, can you do it? It's, you have to do it, but very quickly. A matter of milliseconds can be the difference between winning or losing a match. And you are not going at 70% for 3 events. You're going at 100% for 5, 6 components in each event.
Yeah.
And they all vary from weightlifting and gymnastics to you name it. So for me, number one, I am a business owner that has to be at work and is a primary coach at the gym. So recovering from just training people every day. EWAT was very helpful with that. EWAT and both the hyperbaric chamber was really helpful with that. And then once I started adding a component of intensity in my training, I found myself needing that more and more. So being able to recover quicker so that I can return to that level of intensity and be present in my coaching. A lot of what I do is demonstrating. So in order to be able to effectively coach, I would need to feel good enough for my training to do a good job for my business.
Is there a point where you noticed that you were declining, trying to juggle it all without having any additional services?
Absolutely. So especially with the hyperbaric, that one for me, my favorite thing was just listen to a podcast and take a nap.
Yeah.
And it was nice to kind of reduce my stress levels and have that break in the middle of the day to where I could take like a 1-hour nap in there and just decompress, de-stress, and just hit the reset button. So that really made a big difference for me when I was doing it regularly. I have not been doing it regularly, and I can tell. But
You haven't?
I'm horrible.
I know. I'll text you every few weeks and be like, hey,
Where have you been? Like,
are you still alive?
yeah, I'm still alive. So it's so funny because around this time of the year, the last probably 4 years, I'm like, hey, baby, ready to come back.
We looked at your past scans and it's like on the dot every year.
Yeah.
A year from last year is when we did like our last, hey, we got to figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm good up until season gets crazy, and then season gets crazy because we do travel nationally. So this year we went to Texas. The year before we were in Vegas. So each year, there's that traveling component, and then my team's out of Atlanta, so that's even harder.
So what we try to teach, and this is the ideal situation, but it never happens because life is never the same, is that you would preventatively do these therapies as a priority so that you can keep doing all these other things, right? And so the way you're doing it is you're using it as a tool to keep yourself at least at a functioning level so you can perform in your business. You still got life and family and, a whole other part of the life that you got to focus on too. So between business and athlete, that's a lot. Most athletes, as far as I know, that's all they do. They got a whole freaking team that's behind them. Recovery, nutrition, everything. That's all that they're focused on. And then they have, 2 months, 3, like football players.
Yes.
2, 3 months of just like do whatever you want. And then you go back in full steam. So running a business and that is nuts. And then you came to me a little while ago and you said, hey, I'm thinking about starting a family. So I'd really want to make sure my body's optimized for that. And what I'd like to ask you is I'm curious what your mindset was behind that, because I think most people, they wouldn't think of that. They would just, make a baby and be like, maybe see their doctor and say, hey, is there anything we need to know? And have a baby.
Yeah, so kind of some background stuff. Probably in the last year, I really spent a lot of time doing research on nutrition, health and wellness coaching, optimizing your body for peak performance, but not just in a sport, but also just for quality of life, really maximizing that hedge between like sickness and wellness and trying to invest as much as I can on the wellness side. And for me, I am naturally pretty skeptical of most doctors. And, to each their own, but that's my personal standpoint. And for me, I would like to get lab work done and testing to make sure I don't have, any heavy metals, make sure that my hormone levels are appropriate, especially my cortisol level with how much I am active at work and with how active I am also like with my sport, even though probably not going to play another season. Making sure that my body has not suffered any issues in that department. And so for me, I want to be able to come to somebody and say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do X, Y, and Z. We plan on having a baby. I'm going to be 34 this month. And these are the things that I want to have in place before I have a baby.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of really great podcasts like Real Foodology. She's on her journey for fertility. She's in her 40s and she talks about, detox, supplementation, making sure you have the right types of folate versus folic acid and all of those things. And so you start thinking, wow, I can't believe people just have babies willy-nilly, but they do it. They do it.
I had lots of babies.
Yeah, and no problem. But for me, being a little bit older, I know that the older you get, the more risk there is when it comes to having a baby. And I want to try to maximize my fertility, but also my health so that my baby can have the best opportunity when I decide to have a kid.
And I love it that you thought about us at Reboot when you were thinking about this. But what was it that made you think, let me talk to Fabian and Reboot about it also?
Yeah. So for me, I knew I wanted to run some lab work.
Okay.
Just kind of get a good baseline.
So it was the testing?
Testing for me, that was a big part of it, but also like really talking about the functional medicine side.
Yeah.
So there's not really a lot of opportunity for functional medicine. It's hard to find a practitioner, and in your modern, Western healthcare system, in order to get anything done the way that you want it done, you really have to seek out the specialists. And working with you guys in my sports and performance world, I knew that we had talked about this a couple years ago when I first met my husband, that at some point I would want to have kids and we would cross that bridge when we get there. And you said, hey, when you're ready, we're here for you.
For sure. And what's beautiful about that is we don't necessarily specialize in pregnancy preparation, right? But I've had 3 women now that were brought to me. They were told, because apparently you have to have 3 miscarriages before a doctor can then give you a prescription to go do some kind of a in vitro or some alternative way of getting pregnant. And I didn't know this. So these are women who were told that after a couple miscarriages, they can't have kids anymore.
Wow.
They have kids, fortunately, already, but they wanted to have another one. And so I said, look, here's the plan is we have 90 days. You need to follow it to a T. If you really want to do this, you can't even try to conceive. We need to be completely focused on changing your brain and your body's mindset that your body is optimal to have a baby and get pregnant. And so that's where we went through the whole process. You as an athlete, it does change a little bit, of course, but for them, it's all about figuring out what's off, what do we have to balance out, detox the body, enhance it so it optimizes everything. And then after 90 days, you can start trying to conceive again. And there's been 3 pregnancies since then, which is amazing. And I think it comes back to, we don't have to necessarily be a specialist in that, but if we can just make sure the body is able to do its job the best, then that's the goal.
Yeah. And, with working with you over the last couple of years, I know that you guys have the ability to detox, right? You've got the infrared dome and all the technology there.
What else do we have?
That new thing. What's that new thing?
Colon hydrotherapy.
Yeah, that thing. It's a new thing. Don't you have a new thing?
Yes, so the EBO2.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had all this detox cool stuff. And then, which is part of what I want to do pre-pregnancy, is get detoxed as much as possible. And then you have all these recovery things that are both like physical, mental, emotional, being in that hyperbaric chamber and just recovering. And then also, I know that you guys do the heart rate variability scan and basically, I guess, what do you call that? Is it just heart rate?
Yeah, pulse analysis, heart rate variability.
Yeah, and the hair follicle testing and all that stuff. So I knew we could get a picture of what is going on and then create a plan to treat that so that I'm at my optimum wellness.
Yeah, makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your first colonic.
Oh. Oh, gosh. So my first one, I think it was right before a match. So interestingly enough.
But can I do this before a match? I remember that.
Yeah. I was like, I just feel really tired and sluggish. I had been traveling for the league and I just could not get my shit together, literally. And so you're like, just try this. You'll feel lighter. It did help. It really did help. But I was unaware of all the things that were going on in my GI system. And
okay. So you saw a lot of crazy stuff coming out.
Oh yeah. I was there with Rochelle at the time, and I was pretty horrified because I would say I probably in the last 5 years have probably 4 years that is the better frame of reference have really worked on. I don't really drink. I eat fairly clean. I really take care of my health and wellness. So I really did not anticipate for it to be that way.
Yeah.
And the other reason why I wanted to do that was to help manage some of the carbohydrate cravings, especially around my cycle. So that did help substantiate. Probably my favorite thing, like not the therapies, but one of the things you introduced me to, digested enzymes. And I think it was some kind of, I don't know if it was a antiparasitic or some kind of thing that was for GI health. Those two things like
Made a
changed.
difference. Yeah, so digestive enzymes, I don't feel like we should have ever really needed these things, but it's just because now with our digestion and the food we're eating and how fast we're eating, probably everybody needs them at this point. But I remember like 17 years ago, there was a good friend of ours who was a chiropractor, and we would go to dinner and he would like shake this bottle around. It's like, everyone needs enzymes. And you'd be like passing them out at the table. And we're like, the hell is this, dude? Like 17 years later, me and him go to the same conferences for stem cells and all this stuff. And I'm like, I brought a bag of digestive enzymes. I'm like, did you bring yours? He's like, no. I'm like, here we go.
Yeah, you're that friend now.
Yeah. So now we bring him to dinner, me and Dana, every time. Like we hand them out to the dinner table with everybody. But yeah, and then the other one was to reduce yeast.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know what is really in your trash can, in your colon, which when you see it coming out, you're like, holy crap, man. That's like, you see these yeast colonies floating through and
That was
like
the worst part.
spiraled stuff. And I've seen mold growing off of yeast colonies coming out of people's body.
Yeah. That's to me, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's in my body. Like, that's pretty.
Yeah. And imagine you're getting it out of your body.
Yeah.
That's the cool part.
Yeah. So definitely noticed I felt lighter, and that's something that I've struggled with is kind of just general GI health. Yeah. So in the last probably month and a half, I've really dived into keto for athletes. Okay. So Finney and Voley and all those people who have written the book on it and really dialing in on that. And it's been an interesting journey to see the reversal of your typical carbohydrate fuel, I don't know how to say it, doctrine, right, for athletes.
Yeah. Candy, sugar, as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I trained and did not have something to eat right away that was pretty carb dense, and I usually try to pick healthy things, I would have a literal crash. Like I would have a hard time driving home. I was so tired. I'd have to take a naps all the time. So it's been really good making that transition away from that. And I'm curious to see how that translates long term to my health and wellness and what my scans look like now that I've made this change.
Yes. And then when you came in, I think I said something about peptides, and you're like, you can do peptides? And it's like, yes, because it's the way to dial in the body. It's like we can signal the body finally to do exactly what we want. And I'm excited too for you as an athlete, while you're still being an athlete and performing at a high level. Let's use some of that and let's tune your body. And so that's why I love working with athletes. I have a passion for it. I don't do it a whole lot because most of my clientele we're trying to work on like some real serious chronic conditions at Reboot. But you guys respond so quick as athletes because your body's so primed in.
Right.
As soon as you do a few hyperbarics, you can tell a difference.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
And if we can get some peptides in there.
Yes. So the tricky part with peptides, you don't have to include this part, but CrossFit bans them, believe it or not. They ban BP.
How do they test?
We can't test it.
Okay.
So what's interesting is like
amino acids. We don't do peptides.
I know, it's crazy. For me, I'm not worried about it. But I actually found out about, BPC 157 because of my GI problems. Because when it was originally researched, it was a product that was supposed to help with ulcers and stomach problems. And that body protecting compound can be helpful for folks who have GI disruption. Then I had, at the time, this was probably 2-3 years ago, this is when I first started playing grid, a pretty serious elbow injury that was a byproduct of carrying someone's kid at the gym. In addition to all the things that I do. So it's so funny because all the injuries I tend to get are overuse injuries as a byproduct of being a business owner and coaching full time, being an athlete as well, and then just lifestyle. So from holding a baby at my 9 a.m. and at my 4:15 p.m. class, I ended up getting really bad tennis elbow. I couldn't hold coffee cup. So I'm like, listen, I'm going through all this GI disruption, and I have this elbow injury that's really making me crazy. But over the years, BPC and TB 500 has become more popular in the space. CrossFit did put a sanction out on it, but really they can't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know. That's new. That's actually very new. And the reason why it kind of became a big thing is there's a big time podcaster slash athlete slash programmer, Taylor Self, who is part of the CrossFit Athlete Council. And he did a advertisement for a company that does all of the peptides, and CrossFit pulled him off the athlete council and sanctioned him for 4 years.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But grit does not test for anything. So
And they can't anyway. So it's okay.
yeah. So really most of the time they only got him on that technicality, probably because they don't like him, to be honest.
Is this the guy? Because I think Dana would watch him all the time. He's like in his garage.
He's bald.
No. Okay. Different guy. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's just be honest. I'm sure in sports, peptides have been around forever. That's probably the big way that athletes are like getting an injury in NFL and coming back a week later and playing again.
Yeah.
You know, the nasty injury.
Yeah.
I went through a nasty injury with it, and it was drastic. It's like 0 bruising, 0 swelling, and I was able to walk in 3 days, which would probably been a lot longer with an injury like that. And I've seen it with clients where really fast turnarounds.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that it's more open to everybody now. So where at least we're hearing about it. The bad part of that is you can buy peptides anywhere almost.
Right.
And there is toxins that can go with that, where it can create a response in the body,
Right.
which creates inflammation.
Right.
So we have to be careful with it for sure.
Yeah.
And so you and I doing our scanning is how we're going to figure out what your body really needs.
Right.
And then, of course, we vetted the places we use. So making sure that they say all the right things.
And like as a tangent to what I said earlier, for me, like my professional career as a grid athlete is coming to a close. So I will not be pursuing playing the sport of grid anymore. And I am dropping a bomb. And, you know, with CrossFit and things like that, I do plan on participating, you know, in the open and some of the traditional things. But at the end of the day, right now, my priority is getting my business in order and then starting a family. Really starting a family first, though. But so the business stuff we'll figure out when we get there. But, you know, optimizing my health is most important. And I know that using peptides is a way for me to get there, especially with the scans and going through all the testing and the lab work that we discuss as being like the primary reason why I'm coming to you guys. The use of peptides, because they are natural products and they are things that our body naturally produce to help get me to where I need to be, is something that is more important to me than competition.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. So I'm curious, if we go back to your gym and your clientele, what have you heard is their biggest struggle outside the gym?
My average client is 40 to 70. Right now, I think my oldest, we did the math the other day, is 76. Nice. Pretty badass.
Yeah.
They are trying to create as much fitness and wellness in their life as possible. And so where they struggle, number one, is getting from that sedentary lifestyle to an active lifestyle.
Okay.
Getting the working out component. Then comes the nutrition component. So I only see them an hour a day. But what are they consuming? And a big focus of mine, probably in the last year, is really talking about glycemic index, glycemic load, getting them to control their A1C, their blood sugar, and all of these things so that we can keep them off of medications and really start investing in their long-term health and wellness. And then from there is going to be optimizing their quality of life. So really the biggest struggle, I think, for most people when they first come into the gym is that they want to maybe lose weight, but they don't realize that what they're doing in the long run is investing in their quality of life. So that if they have a heart attack, a stroke, they get COVID, which I had a client have all three and beyond, they can come back to the gym when they recover.
Right.
So I think for most of my clients, they walk in thinking they want one thing, but then they realize that they need to do this for other reasons outside of the aesthetics, outside of, you know, I just want to reduce my A1C. It's like, yeah, you want to reduce your A1C and you want to be able to get off the floor, people.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, I feel like people need to realize that do any kind of workout, whether it's CrossFit or any workout, 4 or 5 days a week, they still, especially our female clients, but male as well, they're still moms. A lot of them probably have 3, 4 kids at home, and they're just coming with those like 2 hours that they have available. Then they still have, maybe even they work and they have a business, and there's not, and I say this lightly, but there's not a huge difference between you as an athlete and them.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they need hyperbaric and need to check their body with scans and do all of that as well? I think people need to realize if you're going to do all of that at a high level, like, you still need to take care of your body.
And you want to know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Ultimately, yes.
right. So like if you can assess where you are, you can see, is the fitness I'm doing in line with my long-term goals? So, a big reason why I'm stepping away from competing is I understand that requires a high amount of energy, preparation, certain way of eating, a certain way of training that may make it difficult for me to reach my other goals of having a family.
And risk.
Right, exactly. Right, what could happen? So when we look at like the grand scheme of things, right, I want to assess and see where I am right now and the changes that I make in my training, my nutrition, what peptides I add. I can go back and see with evidence-based information what's working for me.
Yeah.
And whether or not I was a high-level athlete or continue to compete, or if I was on this journey as just somebody who has a full-time job and wants kids, the starting point is the same. I want to see if what I'm doing is actually improving. And the only way you can do that is if there's metrics, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't have those metrics, how do we know if what we're changing is even doing us any good?
Yeah. And you just got to understand that you're like way ahead of the average thinking, because for somebody to think about, okay, I'm going to have a baby, let me prepare for it. I don't think that exists very much, but it should. And I think that's amazing. One of the biggest things I get from clients is they just want a justification to why they feel like shit.
Yeah, that's very true.
And if I can show them, if they do blood work and they're told everything's okay, which happens a lot,
Yes.
and they're like, well, I'm still tired. Like, I feel my focus is off. I just feel pain. Like, it doesn't feel right, doc. They want to understand why. So at least when we do our scans, I can see things like, well, look, here's your deficiencies. You're basically gas on the pedal all day. So of course you're exhausted. You have no resources to live that lifestyle. And they're like, oh, thank God I'm not nuts. Because that's the only justification they get in the end is it must be in your head.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other hard part too is that as our population becomes sicker and sicker, the reference ranges on blood work are changing. So for what might be normal for somebody, 50 years ago, maybe way above normal in these times and ages. And so, and every person is unique. A reference range doesn't really show the whole picture because somebody could be completely within normal limits, but they are experiencing symptoms of fatigue or they're noticing that there are problems that they're unhappy with.
Right.
And so I think a lot of the stuff that we don't talk about in a gym that I think should be talked about is being an advocate for your own health, educating yourself as much as possible, test, don't guess.
So how do you educate though?
You got to research. So learning how to understand studies, having a network of people that you can rely on, like how I called you when I was like, yo, pay me and I make some help.
Right.
Finding practitioners that are in line with your goals, but also like understand where you're coming from and where you want to go. But a lot of people don't understand, like the test don't guess mantra is so important because you could, it could be my hormone levels. I might have really high cortisol. I'm going to reduce my workload at work. And then I'm also going to reduce how much I'm training. That's great. But what if my cortisol's fine?
Right.
I just changed all of that for nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's a component that like people don't realize is very, very important. People have really normal lab work and they still don't feel well. And if you're not testing to see what's going on, and testing isn't just like getting the numbers, right? It's also saying, I'm going to change this one thing and see how it affects my lab work, my scan, whatever, in 6 weeks. Like, then you can make an informed decision. So back to what I was saying with the training and the nutrition and, decreasing my workload at work. If I don't have a baseline on where I'm at, how am I going to know if the changes that I'm making are actually going to be effective or if it could be detrimental?
Agreed. And so I try to get clients every 30 days to rescan. So what we'll do is we'll sit down and say, all right, these are the things you're dealing with. These are your symptoms. Let's look at the data. Oh, this is why. We link it, right? So now I understand, okay, this is why I have low energy. And then we create a plan. But I tell them, like, look, for the next 4 weeks, follow these 4 things. Let's rescan and see if it worked.
Right.
Because if it didn't work, then that means we're on the wrong track. So we got to backtrack and go and focus on XYZ now. And guess what? Things start to improve. We rescan. Okay, you feel better? Awesome. So we're on the right track now, because most traditional methods are, here's your blood work. All right, I'll see you in 6 months. Let's see if anything gets worse or not.
Right.
Just change your diet. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? Just, okay, cool.
Right.
So we got to get away from that, because there's this gap that we're in where our grandmas and great grandmas had a remedy for everything. They would pass it down. This passing down somehow got interrupted. Doesn't happen anymore because we have all this other media now that we're focused on. Like, forget grandma, dude. She always made us drink nasty shit. Let's talk to this guy who's now giving us strawberry flavored solutions.
Right.
And we think that those are better because somebody on a screen with thousands of followers is saying it. So it's got to be better than old grandma,
Well, and I think we kind of lost our way and became disconnected from so many things, right? Not just, the wisdom of our elders, but also the wisdom of like trusting our own bodies. And when we know that something's wrong, like really pursuing that.
Yeah.
I think with the current state of the medical system, you see your doctor for 10 minutes. At best, right? And they just say, oh, your labs look great. We don't talk about, stress management, sleep, time management, how you're doing, emotionally, any of those things. And those are such important parts of whole body wellness. And as I've continued on in this career of like being a gym owner and being an athlete, I've noticed how important those things are. Because if those things are not in order, the house is not in order, you're in deep shit. Literally. You start having a lot of those dysfunctions. We talked about the cytokine storms and all of those things that happen. When someone's like, man, my health just went from 0 to 100 so fast. It's like, no, you're probably cruising at 70 and then you had some stuff go down and now you're at 100. But what you think is 0 is really 70, and that's not normal. That's not healthy for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. A big part of our philosophy is we have to teach people. And if I can't do that in 10 minutes. So if I can't show you and it makes sense to you, then what the hell are we doing? Because it has to make sense to you. And unfortunately, I think it has to be visual as well. So when we do our scans, I put it up on a big screen. I'm showing people their lung. I'm showing their cells, their circulation, because I want them to like put the visual together that this is what's going on. And if they can see that and they get it, and I tell you, you have to drink this nasty thing every day for the next 30 days, and you have to go put a speculum up your rear end, a tube, to get cleaned out, but you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, our conversion now for going from the assessment to detox, which is doing colonics, is more than 99%. And that's with men, women, kids, and these wives will come in and say, you'll never get my husband to do a colonic. And I'm like, okay, just have him come in on his own. Like, you don't say a word to him.
Yeah.
Just have him come in. We'll talk man to man. I'll show him his report. And 99% of the time, they're like, you know what? A colonic sounds like a good idea.
Bring me out, dog.
And I'm like, yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So that's where it has to make sense.
Well, I think like that's back to like the ancient wisdoms. How long have people been doing colonics?
I mean, I've seen things about Egyptians having these horn things that they would do enemas.
Yeah.
Back then. So I mean, it's been around a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we got disconnected from this ancient wisdom. It comes back to even like how we eat our food. Like, so much processed food is out there. We demonized fat for ages, and yet Americans are fatter and out of shape and unhealthy, the highest rate of obesity we've ever seen. And so we got disconnected from growing the animals on our land and butchering our own animals and consuming foods that are in season and are available. And we went against traditional wisdom and really tried to innovate and modernize. And we've lost that ability to get nutrients from our food, but be in tune with our body and with nature. And colonics being around for such a long time, it's a no-brainer for somebody who understands the importance of those things.
Yeah, and because nobody makes sense of it, it's just like a taboo thing.
It was taboo. You have to talk me into that.
I know I did. Yes. Most people I do.
Yeah.
I've been getting them done for like 7 years now, so I'm comfortable with them, but I could totally understand where you're going to walk into something like, this is weird.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad. Like, if anyone's, it's really not that bad, honestly.
Yeah.
So
No, you're probably due for your next colonist.
I am probably due. I know it's part of the detox protocol we talked about. We got to test first, and then we can assess.
So what's our plan coming up? So I know we're going to do our scans. We're going to focus on balancing your body out as you are continuing to be an athlete, but also we're going to do it to become a mom and an athlete. You're going to focus on your environment, which is outside, that I can't fix or work on. And the goal eventually is to, I'm assuming, obviously you want to be a mom, go into the family life, but health industry, you feel like that'll be something you're always...
Yeah, like in some capacity, right? Obviously, I have the gym that's here in town, and I love what I do every day. But I also understand that health and wellness goes beyond the four walls of my gym, and really getting involved in educating the public. So I'm a CrossFit level 3, which is now the second highest. It used to be the highest, but it's the second highest. There's a level 4 now. I've had my precision nutrition. I've got certifications and all kinds of stuff. And so as you being in this industry, as long as I have been, you start realizing that, yes, it's great that 1 hour a day, you got somebody who couldn't get down on the floor to be able to get right back up. Like, that's awesome. You're improving their fitness. But if we don't discuss the other 23 hours in the day that they're not there, we're really doing them a disservice. And so, in the future, I see myself doing something in that capacity. We already do it with our nutrition clients. We have a meeting once a week where we really talk about, like, what are your goals? Like, maybe not just within the gym, but personally, talking about where you might struggle when it comes to creating consistency and disciplining your lifestyle, not just with what you do exercise-wise at the gym with me, but also with what you're consuming, whether that's food, music, the friendships you're around, the content you're consuming on TV or in books. So really talking about full body health and wellness and getting away from just purely CrossFit and fitness and functional fitness, because it's great. I love it. It's changed my life. It's changed the life of my family and my clients. But there's so much more that we sometimes say, oh, well, if we worked out an hour a day, that's good enough, that we're missing that opportunity to really optimize our health and wellness.
For sure. If there's one therapy you'd say has been the most beneficial for you in general, with any therapy you've done, what is it?
I love the hyperbaric. I'll tell you what, it takes a couple times for it to actually kick in, but once you go 2 or 3 times and you're in there consistently, just being able to disconnect mentally is really good for me. But also, I feel like I took a 3-hour nap and I'm like, wow, that was great.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. That's my favorite one by far.
Yes, same.
And I love our business relationship that we've had as you as an athlete, but also with your gym, because you're one of the few gyms that has accepted, we should have some kind of outside partnership with nutrition and recovery modalities. You let me come in with the exercise with oxygen during the open, and then have those athletes, give them the benefit, right? So I really appreciate you being open to that. And I'm looking forward to the future as you're developing, because I'm sure this is a thing that we'll be working together for a long time, because this is health and wellness we have to deal with forever, the rest of our life, right?
Can't get rid of me. I might not show up for a while, but I'll come back.
Once a year, I'll see you following on.
But hey, now that I'm not competing, I really have no excuse. So,
Exactly.
so back on the bandwagon and getting all that stuff done, and honestly, as a business owner, it makes clear and total sense to outsource these things because I can't be everything for everyone. And a healthy client who's assessing everything, and they're like, oh great, I'm going to start CrossFit. I do my little scan, I change these little things, I start exercising, I improve my nutrition, I scan again. Wow, that's so much better.
Did something.
Like, how are you supposed to see your improvements in all aspects of your life if you really don't have a way to measure it?
Right. Yeah.
Mhm. And so that part's really, really important. And so for me as a business owner, it's a no-brainer. Happy, healthy clients are going to want to continue to do CrossFit because they see the benefits, but they're also feeling better. So it is, I don't know why it's so hard to get people to see that it's an added benefit across the board, whether you're in the health and wellness industry or the nutrition industry or just looking to optimize people's health. Having that relationship with a company like yours is really important.
Yeah. All right. So before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask first if you shout out your business, because I'd love for you to tell everybody who your business is. And then right after that, if you can think about the piece of advice in the health and wellness industry that you feel like is the most important thing to let the audience know now, and we can only choose one thing.
Okay. All right. So my name is Vilma Gray. I am the owner of CrossFit eFit. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at CrossFit eFit or at coach_Vilma, Vilma. We are a local CrossFit affiliate in Ocala, Florida. And then the best piece of advice for health and wellness, gosh, there's too many because one of them is kind of controversial.
Do it.
I think you should try to not be on any medications if possible. Like your goal should be to try to be as healthy. There's a lot of things as healthy as possible without the intervention of other things unless absolutely necessary, right? The other one, I think getting off birth control is the best thing you can do for yourself. That's
Interesting.
huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I had a client recommend a book called Roar. Very good book talking about birth control, sports performance, and basically just trying to educate myself on it as much as possible on everything. And I will tell you, I got off of that stuff like 4 or 5 years ago. And I used to have cystic acne, which I still work out.
Oh yeah, you definitely have way less.
Way less acne. Crazy. I mean, I still will flare up because I work out at a gym all day. But like significantly less. My hormone levels on my lab work were crazy for a long time.
Yeah.
And so the last labs I had, which was like 3 years ago,
Blood labs.
blood labs were normal. I mean, again, within normal limits.
Yeah.
So, who knows what that means. I'm actually trying to pull them up now to bring them to you.
We could probably do a whole podcast just on that whole concept that you said. So
birth
athlete, birth control.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So like I got off of them probably the year before I started competing for grid, and the mental clarity, being able to cycle track. I can't believe I've gone all these years without like not tracking my cycle to where like I'm in tune with my body. I know when I'm about to start my period. I know when I'm about to start ovulating. And so many people are struggling with fertility issues. They're not even in tune with their bodies, dude. It's crazy. It took a year for me to feel like I had my shit on lock. And like now my husband even knows because he's like, you're being extra spicy right now. What is your deal?
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable how disconnected. So I guess circling back to answer your question is educating yourself as much as possible and getting in tune with your body as much as possible.
Okay, yes.
So,
And I got an icebreaker question real quick.
okay.
Because I feel like you're going to keep going if we don't
Yes.
stop. This happens to my wife all the time. How often do you have somebody mention your traps?
All the time.
Yeah, right.
It's like you must work out. And it's like, no.
She gets it all the time, dude. It's so funny. It's just the traps in the arms.
Yeah.
Like on a woman, apparently it's just like this thing that really stands out.
Yeah.
But yeah, she gets it all.
My husband makes me laugh because sometimes I'm just like, it happens all the time when we're out in public and I'm just trying to be a normal person. And he goes, what you get like so bashful about it? Like, I wish someone would walk up to me and say, wow, you must work out. It's like, well, cause that's so much more than just that person. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, she's just a gym girl. Like, there's a lot more to me than that. But yeah.
What about my traps, bro?
That,
No, I never get that. Ever.
I mean, he does get it too in his defense. It's actually really funny. He does. But like as a girl, I'm like, can I just be like, my whole life is health and wellness. Can we just talk about something else?
How about your like beautiful hair or
Yeah.
something?
Have you ever seen it's a new thing on Instagram where it's like that time of the night at a party where someone starts asking you about health and wellness? And oh my gosh, it's so funny because you can't run from it. So, I'm sure you've experienced this.
Okay.
Dana too.
Yeah.
Well, she's yoked. If you've never seen Dana, she's
Yeah, for sure.
and when you have that appearance and the knowledge that you guys have, at some point, whether it's a family gathering, a business meeting, it could be anything, they start asking you about, oh, well, what do you do?
Oh, totally. Yes.
What do you do? What do you think about protein powder? Like, all those questions start coming in about like health and wellness, and you're like, I'm getting free advice out. Here we go.
Yeah, I know. No, yes, that always happens at a party. And it's like when you're at the wrong state to be talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah,
And
the
it does.
tinfoiled hat comes out. We start talking about some controversial things, and then people are like, "Wow, okay, we're either going to invite him back. There are kind of people, or maybe not. You never know. You go either way."
Yeah, exactly.